Hello, product marketers. How are we doing this fabulous Wednesday? Woo-hoo! All right, let's do it one better because there's going to be Americans watching this. We need to make sure they know that we British people have fun on a Wednesday. Let's say hi and let's say whoop whoop because we are here. We are product marketers. Let's go. Woo! All right. Thank you all so much for coming to this productmarketers.com event. If you've come to one of our events before, you know that it's down to earth, useful, and super, super friendly. So I'm really glad that you had some time up on the rooftop bar. This is summer. We have to take advantage of any bit of warmth that we have. Am I right? Am I right? Yes, exactly. So I'm so glad. Please take a seat, Laura. Hey. And just welcome everyone here to this mini conference, the London edition. I'm super excited for our panelists. We're going to be speaking about AI in product marketing, and I'm super, super excited to see what we can learn from these amazing PMMs. But before we get started, I wanted to ask, who here took the Profitable PMM Challenge last month? Raise your hand. Up. Yeah, I see you, Jonathan. Raise your hand. Yes, let's give them a round of applause. Morgan, amazing. Shout out the words of how you found it. How did you find the Profitable PMM Challenge?
Profitable,
okay. Very unique, very creative. I love it. Thank you, Jonathan. Morgan. Confidence boosting. Oh, I love that. Amazing. And Jason.
Very informative.
Very informative. There we go. Americans, this is how we compliment really good things. We just say how informative it is, that's our thing, okay? So that actually means it was awesome. It was awesome, right? Okay. So this is going to be an amazing, amazing panel. And if you saw my post literally yesterday, all around AI and product marketing is definitely a top topic. I didn't mean to do that, but hey, I rhyme. Okay. And what we're going to learn from this panelist, how I picked these panelists is really interesting, is because some of the panelists actually use up to 20 plus tools. There's a panelist who uses only one AI tool, and they're a mix of different organizational sizes. So I'm very excited to have Billy, Kate, and Sara up today. So let's give them a big round of applause. Woo! Let's kick this off. All right, let's get settled in. We're going to kick off to introductions from the panelists. So please share your name, your company, and what you do.
Awesome. Hi everyone. My name is Billy. I work in the product enablement team at Multiverse now, which is a change that happened about 6 weeks ago, just after the last time that I was here. I was a product marketing manager at Multiverse for about a year, now working towards enabling our sales team to communicate the value of our products and using a bunch of AI tools to help them do that really effectively.
Hi everyone. My name is Kate. And I'm more than 10 years in tech marketing, and I've been leading the marketing team in previous organization as a head of marketing. But over the last few years, I've changed my focus just to product marketing, and currently working at Percona. That's a database software company where I'm leading a few quite technical products like Kubernetes operators, database management systems. And quite happy to be here. And
Hi everyone, my name is Sara. I work at Blink Payment. We're in paytech. Most people will call it fintech. I really like calling it paytech because it actually tells you what we do. I mean, fintech is way too big. I very much believe in that. Hashtag, I want my marketing team to actually adopt that. I've been trying for a year. One day. I am a solo PMM, which I'm sure I'm very interested to see maybe how many of you are, but it is the one thing that more and more, I'm sure you guys see it all the time, solo PMMs. So I have 4 PMs that I work with. We have a lot of payment functionality and API, etc., that I market.
Amazing. Well, I'm super excited to learn from all of you today. Let's give them a big round of applause for getting kicked off. Yeah, amazing. And so, let me just add on to what Sara said. Raise your hand if you are a solo PMM. Okay. All right, a few. Okay, so we have a good mix of the room. Amazing. So my first question comes to you, Billy, who, by the way, is the first panelist who's come on for the second time, because I'm like, dude, I have so much to learn from you. Like, let's go. So you've been building AI tools for your sales team as a PMM, and you told me as a result, you're now saving 3 to 4 hours per week per sales team member. But on top of that, you built an AI tool that you yourself created and has become widely adopted by the sales team in your organization. How did you do it? Share the magics, share the secrets, and how were you able to measure the time saving?
So I guess the tool that I was referring to there was essentially an AI-powered tool that helps our sales team map customer pain points to our portfolio of products that we have at Multiverse. So we're an apprenticeships provider across data, AI, engineering, and leadership. So we have a lot of different programs. And so the basic functionality of it is a sales rep drops their kind of Gong transcript into this kind of AI bot. And it will then kind of do an analysis. It's trained on all of our programs, and it will align kind of best fit programs for them, draft follow-up comms, position some of those programs together if we have already kind of got positioning for them, and it kind of just pulls that from a central place. I think the key thing that I did there was just working with the end user right from the beginning, right? So I knew I was building this for the sales team. I didn't know this was exactly the tool that I was going to build, but we knew that sort of solution mapping was something that we could automate. We know that there was a very manual process for like a sales rep to kind of go back to their Gong call, listen through it, like try to kind of write down like where they think the potential pain points are. These are kind of very manual and repeatable things. And if they're manual and repeatable, there's definitely some potential wiggle room there for AI tooling and an AI solution. So I did that, made like a very sort of initial version of that, and found like a willing sort of sales leader who was going to champion that, like a regional director at Multiverse. We then kind of enabled just 7 people on it out of our sort of 80-ish team of sales reps. Got a ton of feedback. Turns out the first thing that I built, there was lots of things to be desired about it. It hadn't completely hit the nail on the head. But over the next like few weeks, we had like a ton of really, really awesome feedback. And because it's a no-code tool, I was able to move really, really quickly in developing something that they actually kind of did want and were going to use. In terms of uptake, we use Guru as like the internal wiki for like our sales team. So like just dropping the right resources at the right time. So we could kind of see how many times the resource had been kind of summoned by a sales rep, how many times they were using it. We did the full team enablement on, I think, April 14th. And since then, we've had about 1,500 uses of that tool. So like a lot of uses per person, maybe like 20 plus on average. But obviously we have our power users that have used it kind of dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And then people that are just sort of getting to grips, maybe a bit more nervous with AI adoption, right? That's still like a thing across all different parts of the organization. But yeah, that's the main way that we track it. And even today, right, still continuing to refine that, especially as we launch new products, do new things. We want to kind of keep that functionality up to date. And I can, because it's a no-code tool, and I'm a non-technical person, and I can move quite quickly with that. That was very long-winded, sorry.
No, that was amazing. That wasn't long-winded, was it? No, that was amazing. What was the no-code tool that you used to build out this functionality?
Yeah, so has anyone heard of Cassidy? At the moment. Okay, so it's I think they're US-based, really, really awesome tool for like low, no-code users like me, where you can kind of use AI, use automation, has great integration with Zapier as well, so you can kind of like have those different tools team up. Essentially trained sort of knowledge base in Cassidy on all of our kind of core product information, and that's kind of like the brain behind this AI bot. And then through a series of kind of prompts, this is quite similar to like a Gemini gem, actually, if anyone's kind of used Gemini gems. I actually have recreated that same thing in Gemini, so it can also work as a gem, but Cassidy was the kind of the right tool for this time. I was also very new to Cassidy and used this as kind of my learning curve to understand Cassidy a little bit better. So yeah, that's kind of how we've used it, but I know that budgets, and especially for solo PMMs, like that can also be a thing. Gemini also is a real possibility for this kind of functionality.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Billy. Kate, over to you. You told me that you and your team now run 3 times more campaigns using AI, where you test faster, drop what doesn't work, and focus on what does. What tools do you use, and how do you measure the effectiveness of the campaigns and not just the speed of execution?
Right. Sounds like a magic, right? 3 times
It
more
really
campaign,
does, yeah.
and we know what to do. So spoiler, we don't know what to do in advance, but AI helps a lot with that. And it starts with ideation stage and what actually to drop on the market. So considering I am within the tech field and running a few products, and each product has 50 plus features. And how it used to be, the product team and engineers are usually those that would say, okay, we're now working on this feature, that would be the next one to drop. And the problem on this like ideation and market estimation stage, I would say, would be the fundamental. So what I'm doing, in all companies I'm forcing product team and engineers and developers and team leads, like the tech staff, to work in a tool called productboard.com. I don't know if you heard of it. That's basically the product features ideation management tool. And recently with AI era, it's been enabled with intelligence, which allows us to understand in advance which feature will resonate with end user and which is not. So it analyzes not just visits, but it understands who've been there, the decision maker or user, and what competitors tool they're using, and like what was their reading time and interest, and did it share with anyone this feature. So basically any idea goes straight online where it's already available in Google, and everyone who is Googling the product solution, the problem solution, will find it, and it helps a lot. It allows to prioritize which feature we will launch, and if actually messaging that describes the feature, the functionality resonates with the end user, meaning that all the ideation process that we're doing, like before we've done it internally, it's right now exposed to the end user as early as possible, which helps a lot. And the second, actually, execution stage, I would say that combination of 2 tools, Adobe Target and Amplitude, is a game changer for us because it automatically identifies the segment of your users and buyers, the visitors of your website, and shows them the right messaging at this moment on a page. So for one product, I have different users and decision makers and influencers, and messaging would be different because everyone has different problems, and the buying process is quite complicated. It's not just one person who is making the decision. And instead of including absolutely everything we have and make the landing page overcomplicated and heavy, we would adjust it with AI to the right person in the right moment and show them straight away what they're looking for. So that was a great help. And the third thing that I would mention is competitive intel. Is something that also helps us prioritize the launches and the messaging as well. If before we had to manually work on like up to 40 competitors constantly identifying what they've been dropping, what they're talking about, this new technology and that, right now I'll show you, tell you later how exactly doing this. We're doing this with like all the competitive intel automatically with AI and sharing it across the company with sales and customer success team. So the whole like company enabled with the latest market news, which is quite handy.
Very cool. And by the way, for anyone who's trying to keep up on the tools that are being mentioned, I am going to email you all of the tools mentioned on the panel today. And for those of you at home, you'll get a download link in description. Oh my God, who am I? Okay. We've we've come a long way. If you were here from the start of like all of these events, yay, productmarketers.com, it was not like this, I'll tell you. But amazing. Thank you so much, Kate. That was awesome. Sara, you told me that you only use one AI tool, partly by choice and because you're a solo PMM with limited time and budget. What is that one tool and how do you use it? And have you tested out others?
So I'm sure everybody can guess which one it is.
What's the guess?
There you go.
There we go.
You know what? There's some amazing AI tools out there. They are. And I've heard from a lot of other people here at previous calls, but also from other PMMs and colleagues that there's lots of fun things out there. But yeah, like Hattie was saying, no budget. But also, I don't really have the time. So ChatGPT has been beneficial for being my sparring partner. I mean, if you're by yourself, if you're only product marketer, I work for a company with 80 people, with a small marketing team that, you know, they're amazing. Hashtag love the marketing team at Blink. You know.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
Promotion, please.
Yes. No, I do. I love collaborating with them, but we're all so super busy, which means I am sometimes just looking to brain dump, literally. So I'll have like, I'm this person that thinks about 20 things at the same time. I'm sure lots of you guys do that as well, which is why we're good at our job, right? But I sometimes just need somebody to structure it, right? I want to send an email. This is everything that needs to be in there. Can you just structure out? So that's one thing I really use ChatGPT for. And going from the free one to the paid one has actually been immensely beneficial. Don't know if any of you have the paid one, but it allows you to have projects. And projects have changed my life because it allows you to at least tell ChatGPT what you wanted to do in that project. Meaning, for example, one of the things I use it a lot for, I write the release notes. I don't know if all of you guys do that, but that's one of my many, many responsibilities. So I write 2 types of release notes. One is for our API. The other one is for our platform. I told ChatGPT what I want it to look like, what kind of voice this customer or this reader needs, what kind of information, what style, how much technical insight or know-how the audience has. And I kind of go through the tickets on DevOps, read them through, shove it in, copy paste, and then I say in advance, I do help it a little bit, saying this is API related, this is platform related, click enter, and then probably need another, you know, I would say an hour of rewrites. But instead of spending about 3 to 5 hours actually writing it well, I'm just doing a rewrite. So that how actually, like, I need to write a release note at least once every 2 weeks. A lot more generally, and as I said, it's one of my many, many responsibilities that actually really helps me. The other piece that recently helped me a lot, I just recently did a ICP project, an ideal customer profile. I interviewed lots and lots of people. I downloaded or exported the transcripts, and I uploaded it onto ChatGPT. I used deep search, which actually takes quite a few hours, but gives you some real insights. I didn't use it as this is everything, but I kind of used it to take out some of my ideas, in essence saying, hey, I think X, Y, Z, but actually did they say that? Is it not me filling that in? So I use it as like my second sense, and that has, honestly, those are my 2 extremely useful ones. The one thing I do want to say about ChatGPT, they recently released 5. I don't know if any of you guys had been super annoyed, but I have been.
Why is that?
5, I've had like lots of conversations with ChatGPT since it's released, because it's not doing exactly what I wanted to do. It has combined a few things, but the truth is, and that's what I wanted to say, and that's why I'm mentioning it, ChatGPT is as good as your prompt. So you can't, it's not going to think for you. You need to think what you want to get out of it. And so the last example I want to give is we recently had a restructure of our sales departments, and they are now in pods with different verticals that they are looking at. So one of the pods asked me, hey, Sara, can you ask ChatGPT to map, they gave me like these country codes, like different locations in the UK. Can you color code it? And I send it in and I send it back to them, and they're like, yes, Sara, this is not what I want. And I'm like, okay, so what do you want? Can you just actually write down what you're looking for? And they're like, oh, we're actually 3 members and we want to color coordinate it based on our different people. These are, you know, this person is having X, Y, Z, this person having this part of the UK and so on. Prompt it into ChatGPT and you actually get what you want. So in essence, and that's what I want to say, is whichever AI you're using, and I'm sure and I know there's tons of better ones, you need to actually think. Like, don't use it to do your work, do it to improve your work.
Yeah, that's so good. And speaking of the pods, is that across the organization or just marketing specific?
Oh no, this is sales specific.
Okay, sales specific, gotcha. Okay, interesting. And you're 100% correct. Who here has found it where you have to prompt correctly to get something of use out of ChatGPT 5 or? Yes, okay. All the hands, basically.
And actually, I'm going to just, you know, put one of my friend's AIs in there because he's created this wonderful AI called Prompty. I don't know if any of you guys know it. It works in Chrome. And if you download it, I think you can get 5 prompts for free a day. It will help you to enhance and improve your prompts. Would really recommend trying it. It's been bootstrapped immensely. It's just him and the other guy who's created it, but it's honestly incredible.
Okay, nice. That's a good friend right there, I'll tell you. But it was really interesting. So my previous video on YouTube, I actually put out how I've used ChatGPT 5 to then build out a product marketing dashboard. You've watched it, right? And it's really interesting. It garnered like hundreds of people to watch it within like the first 24 hours. But one of the things I mentioned as part of it, which I learned from a podcast on AI, is if you threaten ChatGPT 5, you actually get a better outcome out of it. So you actually have to threaten it and be like, I will sell you to like, well, I'm not going to say it. Well, okay, I said it in the previous video. Like the example is tell ChatGPT 5 that you're going to sell it to the Russians or something like that. So really threaten it and you'll get a good outcome out of it. So I'm like, okay, well, prompting is literally everything. Okay, I love that. So a real mix from the panel here. And before we get into the next question, I'm curious to ask you in the audience, who here sits under marketing? Please raise your hand. Okay, all right. And who here, please raise your hand if you sit under product. Okay. And anyone else who sits under a different division? No? Okay, amazing. Okay, majority marketing here. So my question to the panelists are, how is AI changing marketing and product teams and the way that they operate? Over to you, Billy.
I think, and this is something I think I mentioned at the last panel as well, it's helping us figure out the work that we don't like, that we can freely offer up to Gemini or to an AI tool to get it done for us. I think the example that I'll use is collecting all of the market validation work that I've conducted and worked with PMs on. I think one of the steps in the enablement process for us is to create kind of online trainings for our sales team. So we use Sara for that, which itself has some AI functionality that's really, really awesome. But you know, we could do like 12 hours of like interviews, and we can go and find like really cool like news articles and use Gartner and have all this stuff. And slowly the positioning is kind of forming in my mind, or you know, we're starting to write down a source of truth document, and then we'll get to the place where it's time to start kind of building out this course, and I need to go and find the right quote. And suddenly I'm hit with like possible manual task of who was it that said that one thing that I thought would perfectly encapsulate this training that I could conveniently just like drip into Sara right now, and that would land really, really well with a salesperson. And it could take me, 30 minutes to go and trawl through all of that stuff every time I can think of a possible, quote or something useful. If I put all of that content into a Google Drive and then sync the Google Drive with Gemini or do a similar thing with Cassidy, there's a lot of similar functionality there. I can then just use the AI as a thought partner and be like, who said this thing? And then kind of generally sum it up. And then give me a timestamp, provide the speaker, what their role was, what the context of the conversation was. And I can either do that really manually and like type all of these things out, or I can kind of have pre-trained the instructions to say, every time that I ask you for a specific quote, always give me the source, always give me the context, always give me those things. And over time, right, that just compounds and saves you so much time, especially if you're churning out lots of sort of short form, like 10-minute enablement bites like I do. So I think the key thing is, I can focus then on having the great conversations with potential customers and then live customers, and then not worry about having to kind of like record everything and go back and manually sift through everything at the end.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one thing that I would add to that is I'm very wary of syncing up my Google Drive with AI right now, because there are some instances where hackers are actually using shared documents that will share with your email in order to access and then get into your AI, which is actually pretty wild. I think ChatGPT did an actual, well, OpenAI did an update that now they've removed that bug. But yeah, such a good point. So good. Kate, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely agree with everything you said. And additionally, I would say AI helps drastically with optimization. What we previously, when I started into marketing 10 years ago, what we did manually, like optimization, trying to change in a million links in Google Ads and in different platforms. Now it all optimized automatically, which is a huge help. And regarding the product marketing specifically, I would say that the research went to the next level, absolutely. Versus like before, I had to just torture all the products, engineers, developers with all the stupid questions. Don't get me wrong, I'm still doing that, but I'm looking much smarter.
Torture.
Yeah,
A little bit of light torture.
but it like in a more smart way, I would say, where I'm coming already more equipped to the conversation. When I just joined my existing company, Percona, I had to create a strategy for a database management tool on Kubernetes. I didn't know much about databases and especially about Kubernetes. And asking the right questions and comparing our features, our product with competitors, asking prompts like how it was done before, and asking, as you said, a proof and specific links to a data in reports, which like really enables your research, gives you like almost a ready to go research where you can just approve or disapprove some specific features with sales engineers, with products, and making sure that you are doing this research not from their perspective. Because if you will ask questions like what it does for customers, what the benefit, what the outcomes, the like most go-to answer would be it optimizes everything. It like make it better the performance or something like that. Versus with your prompts, with your initial research, you can stand on your sales footprint, making sure you're researching this from the sales perspective and how it actually will benefit the end user and will help to generate the revenue for them, not just for you. I would say that.
Yeah, amazing. Sara, over to you. How is AI changing marketing and product teams and the way they operate?
I mean, I think it's twofold, right? I think one, which we're all seeing, and I feel it's important to say, is that lots of companies are like thinking, well, who could we fire? And that is, to be very, I just wanted to mention that because I think it's heartbreaking, because I think you really should probably just hire the people who know how to optimize themselves. And AI is a tool for that. But I don't think actually, and that's the great thing, looking at what I just said about ChatGPT 5 before, I don't think it's going to take our jobs. I think it's just going to help us improve and spend our time doing the things we like, which you were saying before. But I think it's important to also realize where you, besides liking what you do, where you can, you know, especially as a solo PMM, bring value. So it's one, writing release notes, I wouldn't say like me spending 5 hours every 2 weeks doing that is actually a lot of time. But me rewriting release notes for an hour every 2 weeks actually is perfect time. So I think that's what I will do, and that's what it does for me. It helps me make my week more impactful and more insightful. And truth be told, I often just want a sparring partner. And I think that will really allow. I do think we need to ensure AIs like to please us. So you need to make sure that, you know, you understand that bias there, where it might tell you something that is wrong. Like there are, not in our field, but in the solicitor fields, there are solicitors that have quoted cases that were not true because the AI wrote a case. a judgment that actually wasn't real, because they really wanted to help the solicitor using it. So I think it is important to use it, but, use your brain also at the same time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Otherwise, you literally have a yes man in the form of AI, which actually doesn't help you. But I like your point, all of your points around the effectiveness and the impact that you can make from product marketing, but also using AI as a layer on top of our knowledge as PMMs. Because in this room today, we have CMOs, we have VPs, we have directors, as well as PMMs and juniors who are trying to break in or just starting their career, right? So it's important for us to lean into not just the sheer amount of work that we can do through the use of AI or all of the different tools, but again, it's like the effectiveness of how we can increase output in the most qualitative and quantitative way possible, but it has to be really useful stuff. It has to be actually stuff that moves the needle. So yeah, amazing points. And coming up to my favorite question of every event, and I can see the smile, so you know what question it is. Let's talk salary. What is a typical PMM salary range that you're seeing in the market for companies like yours? How did you negotiate your comp? What worked, what didn't, and what did you learn from the process? Who wants to go first? Sara, let's go.
I'll go first because I did it really badly. I think that's the good thing to start with. When I was my first product marketing role, and I think I undercut myself. I mean, I know I undercut myself. I was so thankful that they gave me a chance that I'm still not really earning like market value, and most jobs that I'm speaking to, and not that I'm actively looking, but it's always good to look what is out there. I think we all should. If you know what is out there, you actually know what you can come back to your manager with. So that's my one thing. The other thing is also...
How did you know you undercut yourself?
Well, I took the job, I said yes, and then I looked.
Looked where? Okay, all right, hang on. All right, looked where?
I mean, on LinkedIn, and I look what other job specs, etc.
Okay.
I know I
Right.
mean, I still earn below market value.
I presumed maybe they had like an internal doc that, in some organizations where they show like the range of the salaries that your colleagues are getting, or...
Essentially, yeah.
Got it. Shoot.
But it's okay. I've learned a lot. I'm very thankful.
What are the lessons to other PMMs?
Yeah, so don't undercut yourself. Know what you're worth. Know what you bring to the table. And one of the best tips I've gotten from a friend, once they're excited about you, then ask for the extra stuff you want. And depending on, if I'm just talking actual salary, I'm seeing if you are junior, around between the 50 and 60. If you're a solo PMM with a few years behind your belt, I'm seeing between 70 and 110, something like that.
Nice. So the learning lesson there is when they're excited about you, ask. That's really great. Kate?
The range that I see on the market right now is actually quite big, from 45 to about 100,000. And I would say it really depends on the company. And I wouldn't say that hard to understand what company is like paying range. You just Google what the marketing manager, if they don't have, for example, PMM yet, what the marketing manager, what the campaign manager gets in this company, and in Glassdoor you roughly can estimate what they're paying at this role. And with the UK market, it's easier. Some of the companies have actually opened this data. What I'm finding difficult is that the thing that you mentioned, if it's quite hard then increase your check if you already got in with a quite low salary. And my observation through the 10 years, 20% is usually the max. They're ready, it's like a very top, they are ready to add over a year. And how I navigated, because I also joined one of the companies with the kind of below the market price, but I really wanted to work at that team at that time. And so the tips that I can share is find allies within the company who is actually making decisions and benefit from your work. For example, the one of the most, like the greatest beneficial from my work would be CRO, the guy who actually generate the revenue and make sure we're closing the quotes. And if he, let's say he or she sees the real impact from the product marketing team, not just messaging and positioning creation, but the real impact on revenue, where the team can close more deals with a higher win-loss rate, running more campaign, and the sales team actually more equipped and enabled because of you. I wouldn't say that is that hard to ask. So yeah, just make sure they're excited by you. And yeah, that would be my tips.
Yeah, no, those are great tips. And if you've taken my Profitable PMM Challenge, we speak about that, aligning with the right people in your organization. So then you have the strategic visibility that when promotion season comes around or bonus season comes around, it's an absolute no-brainer. Because as Kate said, if you're aligned with revenue or the metric that actually matters, whether it's revenue or if it's churn or product adoption, whatever, then it's more likely to actually get to your goal of a specific revenue number that you actually want out of it. And one other thing that I would mention is a few months ago, a recruiter was putting out a job posting for a PMM up in Cambridge for 40K. And I commented on it and I was like, no, just don't. It has to be over at least 60, 70. Here's what went wrong. A PMM based up north then commented on my response saying, no, Hattie, you're wrong. That's just the rate that is up here. And I'm like, if you want to be poor for the rest of your life, feel free. But for the rest of us who are ambitious PMMs, who want to be profitable PMMs, it doesn't actually matter, because I know PMMs who live up in Cambridge or in Oxford or wherever, and they work for US firms and they're making killer money. Or even a UK firm who has a series A or B. So for some reason, that really ticked me off, where it was one person's limiting belief that was no, we just make that up here in Newcastle. And I'm like, no, it's just because you have allowed it for yourself. Allow other people to make money. Can I get an amen or a round of applause if okay, thank you. Billy.
I mean, I don't know how to go after that now. I think everything's already kind of been said. Maybe the only two things that I would say left are use the momentum of the hiring process in your favor. I feel like conversations about pay towards the end of the process are always going to work a bit more in your favor than conversations about it at the start. And then secondly, to kind of tie it into the theme of the night, I think companies are also looking for AI-enabled PMMs. And that might kind of shift that kind of salary curve for any given company size or any given level, straight over to the right for both the upper and the lower boundaries, especially if you've had a chance in your current role or in personal projects to demonstrate a great kind of success story for yourself with using AI. I think especially now, but I don't think there's going to be an end to it anytime soon, companies need AI-enabled professionals. I think PMM is no exception because of how cross-functional we are, because of how many different projects require our attention, and because there are so many opportunities for AI in our roles as well. So definitely leverage that in your next negotiation too.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I have a follow-up question to the panel here, because statistically there's a lot less women who are using AI or adopting into it. And a lot of the men statistically are using AI and are early adopters. Now, where I have a little bit of concern, especially as a PMM coach, is are female PMMs going to be left behind in earning potential because we're a little bit more reserved or a little bit more I don't know, there's something there. And to the male, very senior C-suite in the room right now, how can we lean forward to engage our female PMMs to actually say, hey, you can't go wrong in testing out these tools? How can we get budget so we can enable the PMMs to actually test it out and not have this fear factor? And has there been anything from how you've seen in your teams or even how you've adopted it? Because this is the one thing that is sitting on my mind and it's kind of weighing on my heart a little bit, where it's I just want us to become more like product adoptive people who can lean into the curiosity factor as opposed to the fear factor. Does anyone get what I'm saying on that? Yeah? Okay. Sara, go for it.
I mean, I think it's also to do with personality, right? I mean, I don't think it's just about sex in that sense. I mean, I love trying out new things in my life, about whether it's food or whether it's a new AI tool or whether I want to watch the latest video or see the latest fashion. So that's something I just love. I guess I get a bit high on that. So I think it really depends on that as well. I also think potentially, I mean, I'm single, but if you are a woman at the workforce who is married or who has kids, there's lots of other things that you're trying to just cope with. So yeah, I know, like, you know, thank God we're living in a very different world than 60 years ago, but I do think that might be part of it, where there's just different priorities.
I just wonder, how can we tap into the people who might, I don't know, they just have this fear, you know, even despite everything else. And I know that parents in general, your fear factor goes way up after having kids, because you're now like, oh, my babies need to like do everything. Apparently, statistically, again, a lot more parents do not ride roller coasters after having a kid. I would know, because like I love roller coasters, but like not kids. No, I'm joking. I love kids. It's fine. What do you guys think? Yeah.
Sorry.
I would say to those people, just go into your fear. And it also relates to the previous question with the salary. It's very a thin line between doing what you've been told to do, or even like to reach the goals that you've been told to reach, versus to identify the new highs, the new opportunities for the company, and feel the company's pain. This is two different, I would say, leagues. Because identify the problem to set up the goal is already 50% of the work to understand what is right to do. And for example, when I joined the company, I've been given a specific like things and instructions. We need to penetrate this market, and here is how we want to do this. Versus after 3 months, I explained to them that this is not the right thing to do. You won't reach your goals. And with the specific data, I saved for the company, a year of working hours and a big budget for the development. And this is important thing to do. No matter what you're doing, just ask yourself why you're doing this, and just be true with yourself. If your goal is just to make the existing sprint, the existing month is just well done, I'm okay, and I'm off free to my family or whatever, this is also cool, that's fine. But if you're looking for uplift here, if you're looking for a higher salary, those things like AI, those things like competitive intel, and constant research, and be within the trends is just a mandatory. Otherwise, you always will be somewhere in the mid maximum.
Can I just add one more thing? Let's ask. Like, yes, maybe that is the case, or maybe that's been the case for the people you're speaking to. I would be super interested to ask that question. I mean, you've got a much bigger LinkedIn profile than I do, but I would say, like, you know, put a type form out there, just ask the question. Ask A, does it worry you, or do you find it scary too? Then B, do you find it scary to try new things in the first place? And then C, what do you think you need or could help you? I think a lot, like for me, for example, as a solo PMM, I'm super busy. So I would love to spend a few hours a week, a month, or whatever on trying out new things, but I don't really have the time unless I can really think this will be beneficial for X, Y, Z, and I need to sell it to myself. So I think that might be the case as well. So you really need to potentially see the benefit. So those, I would say, let's ask and let's find out.
Yeah, I think for at Multiverse, I think the product marketing team got out quite early in terms of like successful AI adoption. I think the 3 key ingredients for that were accessibility of tools. We were given some space to go and experiment. Appreciate that's not available for everybody. Guardrails that the company was setting, like the IT team centrally, were able to say kind of this is in our kind of approved tech stack, right? And so we kind of knew very clearly exactly what was working. And then if you were championing an AI tool like a Cassidy or a Gemini, we had a kind of a very clear hub for like, this is what you can use it for, here are some best practices. And then that third piece, like sharing out those best practices so that everyone feels empowered to kind of go and say, oh, well, I understand that tool won't be 100% applicable for me, but if I just maybe change some of the prompts there or give it a new knowledge base, I could tweak this more for my purposes as well. So yeah, accessibility, guardrails, and democratizing the use cases, I think, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you all so much. And yeah, the one thing that I would add is just try. There's nothing that can go wrong with just testing out a tool. Even if you're like, oh, I'll just sign up for the month and I'll churn. And you'd be like, oh, sorry. But at least you get the experience and you break down these walls of how scary it is, or like, oh, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? It's just like, you can't go wrong when you're just testing out a tool. You're just curious. You're just trying, right? And also the one thing that I would add, because like you mentioned such a great point, Billy, around guardrailing. If you're working at an organization that actually hasn't adopted AI yet, or you have like red tape around it or regulations that you need to uphold in the industry that doesn't allow it right now, I recommend using your downtime to then play around with AI tools, because the one thing that you really don't want to do is to allow the company that you work at to stifle your learning on a tool set that other PMMs are using to their advantage in other industries, especially if you are thinking at the back of your mind, I want to move into a completely new industry, or I want to jump ship sometime soon. So use your downtime to just be curious and test them out. Amazing. Thank you all so much. That was awesome. And can you walk us through a specific project, or maybe one of you can answer this. Can you walk us through a specific project or workflow where AI changed how you approached it from start to finish? Who wants to take this question?
I can take one.
Yeah, go for it, Kate.
Yeah, I was promising to tell about the competitive intel and AI integration, how it works and how I were able to automate this. So before, as I mentioned, we have a few products, a lot of competitors, different features, and plus the market news, like new technologies coming in. And the problem was when we just prepared the new data sheet, the new position in messaging, research, it's not valid in 1 month, honestly. It's always have to be updated, and we're doing this, obviously. But the thing is that how to enable with something live and right away when the salesperson, when the customer success manager right now on the call in 5 minutes, and somebody asks him about recent, like yesterday's news. And what we come up with, there is a tool called Manus, which is basically the better version of ChatGPT and more expensive, which conducts quite extensive researches. And what we did with HTML code, we just integrated in our Notion, versus if you don't guys use Notion, it could be any web page that supports the coding, the simple SQL coding. And with the specific prompts, it updates every 3 days related news to every technology and to every competitor's websites and blog related to a specific field. So
that's so good.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So it updates, it doesn't save the history, which is like kind of cool because we have all of that in messaging and positioning and news. And if it's something important, we will like drop it in Slack. But now sales team and the whole company can quickly go into like the separate page to a specific topic and know what happened to the last 3 days, quite significant, and use it right now on their call. And that was, that was significant. They love it, they still use it. And this is basically automated competitive intel and market data that goes live stream in your organization, tailored to your needs and your prompts.
goodness, that is game changing. That is amazing. And it just automatically updates itself.
Yes, so it's
So good.
it's set it up like 3 latest news for 3 days for a specific prompt, and it will erase and replace the news once the new comes out.
That is so good. Billy and Sara are like, oh, I'm going to implement this. Amazing. So a question to one of you. How are you measuring the impact of AI in your PMM work? Not just time saved, but in outcomes like messaging, precision, campaign performance, or sales enablement?
So I think one of the most recent projects that I'm working on is like a pipeline generation co-pilot for our sales team, kind of automate customer and company research and then provide them with like a cold outreach, cold call transcript or, a LinkedIn DM or an email that automates all of that kind of research that they could in theory spend, 30 minutes per prospect trawling the web for all of the financial reports or on the company or social media posts, and we kind of built again through Cassidy, but this can be done through a variety of different tools, kind of a step-by-step research process. And so with this one, aside from the kind of the sales co-pilot tool that I mentioned earlier, we're moving, I guess, away from time savings as a measure of success, and we're now looking at conversion because we can see quite quickly, did that cold outreach message land you a discovery call? And so this is one that is very, very early days for us right now, but we are seeing a couple of our sales reps getting like face-to-face meetings with prospects off the back of these off the back of this kind of research, and it's pulling out potentially sort of deep research in terms of like company posts and tethering that maybe to like a success story or a use case that we have that product marketing has put together. And like tying those things together and calling things out that you wouldn't necessarily have looked at if you just kind of scrape the web yourself quite manually. And again, it's doing this for dozens and dozens of prospects per week. So at the moment, we're just working with a small number of our sales reps to kind of build that out. But conversion now is something that we're looking at too, beyond just time saving, where sometimes time saving obviously is great, and that's one that we can often quantify with AI tools. But it's like, what are you then doing with that time? Like, did you create an extra manual task with that AI thing that you just built? But like, what are new things? What are other metrics that you can use? So I think for me, kind of beyond time saving, like conversion now is one that we're actually looking at as something that these tools are being able to nudge.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question. How do you then qualify the sales reps to use as part of a project like this? Because as you said, you're starting off with a small group of sales, and then you're obviously going to roll it out once it's all in action and it all works, which is amazing. Are you starting with like the strongest salespeople? Or are you starting with the mid-level or the juniors? Talk us about your qualifications for who to use as part of the sales.
Yeah, I think nosiness is on my part is definitely one of the key kind of skills that I'm using here when figuring out the right people to work with. I spend a lot of time just talking to our sales reps and trying to understand what does their working week look like. There's 45 or so hours. Where are the manual tasks? And in so doing, they might reference some of their peers. They might say, well, we spend a lot of time doing customer research, pipeline generation. And I say, great, like what do you use? And then as I kind of get into the weeds of the several hours per week that might do that, it seems like there's a lot of manual, a lot of repeatable things. And again, as I said earlier, that to me seems like that's an AI disruption kind of area. So yeah, it's a lot of kind of like word of mouth around from talking to my initial couple of sales reps and then kind of working around. But then, we've got Slack, we've got LinkedIn. It's quite easy to kind of get a sense of who is thinking about AI, not just in our sales team, but across the wider business. And I think I've been kind of positioning this as I will kind of always go and speak to the sales reps. There are so many people at Multiverse that are very, very AI enabled, like just within product marketing, outside of product marketing, who are just amazing thought partners and sort of sparring partners that I get to have, as well as the AI tools that I work with. So usually a lot of names come up and I can kind of go there. But what I'm really looking for is someone who is like eager to use AI regardless of how new they are to it, and that will actually give me some regular feedback.
Okay, I love that. Kate?
I would add on this a thing which is, I don't know, if it's obvious or not. For me, it wasn't before. The win-loss rate is quite a usual, normal thing to follow. But what I found is that it directly represents how appealing is your messaging. And if you're seeing that, like a few, like for the last quarter, obviously all companies should do those roundups when they're checking like the reasons for losing the deals. If you don't do this, please do. And if you are seeing that the customer like asked questions and just disappeared and was like, or dropped or whatever, and then I started digging into the conversation, into transcripts, and I see that customers tend to ask unusual questions, or like start dropping the objections. But what if it does this? What if I can't reach that? So tell me, for example, this feature of these competitors. What if I will use this? Wouldn't it better? So what I found it very useful is to add the objections handling to every messaging and positioning I'm having, and that was like really improved. And my sales team would not sometimes even read the whole positioning and messaging. They would go straight to objections handling. I will find out every possible objections that the customer can bring, that the lead can bring to the table, and make sure I addressed it with engineers, with the products, with the right proof point and data, so they can save themselves on the call. And that is, I would say, quite huge for positioning and messaging estimation.
So good. And do you use a AI tool to extract the new objection that might come up on, let's say, a gong call or a different call, and then it passes into a document, and then you look at that to then update in the messaging? Or is that still the manual aspect?
No, it's still the AI, the part of my AI research, versus when I'm doing every messaging, I'm putting the objections handling as a separate part. But then I would follow on the lost deals and identify what the bump was there, what we didn't navigate properly, and will include it. But if you will write, like if you will ask ChatGPT the right prompt, like as you mentioned earlier, you don't want to have the yes man there. And I'm always trying to talk with the AI from the position like a buyer. But what is better here? What if I want to save money? What if I want more performance? What if I just don't like this? And it will give you absolutely all possible objections why you shouldn't use this software, why the competitors is better. So just dig from the perspective of the customer and try to choose the tool for yourself, like you are choosing, I don't know, the shoes, the house, and estimating all the options. And it will give you all the options, and yeah, so it's a part of AI research.
That's so good. And one thing that I would add to that is if we as PMMs lean towards the buyer who needs high information, so basically the high information buyer versus the low information buyer, if we can lean more towards what does the high information buyer need, what are their objections, what are their specific blockers that would come up, or who do they need to speak to in the buying process, if you can lean that far into the spectrum, then the easy low information buyers, you're going to get them, you're going to capture them. So I think that's such a good point. Cool. So by the way, before I ask the final question, before I open up to Q&A, feel free to take any photos, guys, whilst we're here on the panel, and post them on LinkedIn, please, because trying to build up productmarketers.com. But yeah, feel free to take any photos, post them on LinkedIn with these amazing panelists, because they have been phenomenal so far. So a final question to you all. Any of you want to answer, or none of you at all? Let's see what happens. But my final question is, what does your decision-making process look like when deciding what parts of your work to delegate to AI versus do yourself? Sara?
For me, a big thing is what I enjoy. I mean, it is really, if my manager watches this, the reason why I'm still working at my company, even though I'm being underpaid, because I enjoy what I do, right?
Tell them.
I really enjoy what our company does. And so, for example, release notes, I'm just giving that as an example. Again, I don't love it. I love talking, for example, about objection handling, or talking, for example, we have integrations into Xero and QuickBooks. And they are slightly different, and our sales finds it really tough actually to talk about them, because one thing one does and the other one does the other thing, and they mix it up quite easily. really, unfortunately. So talking with them and writing them really some scripts on say this or say that. Sometimes finding a few different ways of saying that, actually shoving into ChatGPT actually helps. And I don't love writing that out, so that really helps. I think in the end, for me, my biggest thing, and I actually asked ChatGPT this question before, like, am I allowing you to do my work, or am I using you to do my work? And I think that's a difference to me, and that's where I'm trying to find the balance.
Yeah, that's such a good metric to think in our heads. Are we allowing them to help us in our work versus using? And also one thing that I would add on like the salary piece, which is such an interesting topic. So in some cases for some PMMs, it's actually a good thing to just take a lowball offer for an organization that will lead you into a path of higher income down the road. So for example, there are some PMMs who will land either a big tech or even pay tech or fintech, depending on what you want to call that. And if it will lead you down a path that you know that you'll be able to earn more on a cognitive level just further down the line, then it actually pays itself. So it's a strategic play, not one I would advise, but it's something that can be done.
I think also, just to add, there's not really an answer to your question, but for me, money is not everything. I know we've been talking about it a lot, but really for me, learning and growing is the way I measure my week.
Definitely.
I was just going to add, I think for me, what's going to help with my own kind of professional development, and like what am I interested in learning more about? I don't know if working on the sort of the pipeline generation piece that I've got involved with at Multiverse was exactly what our PMM role should have been doing at the time. But I'd done these stakeholder interviews. I'd seen an opportunity, made a business case. No one else was working on it, and I kind of that kind of got me an opportunity. And I now sit in the GTM team, and I like to think that a lot of that effort kind of paid off in that regard. So yeah, I think go where your kind of professional development kind of steers you as well. Just make sure you can kind of defend that time or that resource allocation that you might need.
And on my side, I might sound not that popular, but I already made this decision. What is the AI part? What is not? And while it really equips me with some knowledge, helps me with the research. What I will never allow, and quite strict, is not communicate through ChatGPT and through AI, none with internal or external customer. What does it mean? Meaning that I won't create emails, final copies, articles, messaging, and positioning with AI. I will ask prompts that will enable me to put this data together, to summarize, to give me some information I'm not holding. But we are now in the era where AI everywhere, and you don't want to put it in, I don't want at least to put it in the conversation with my users, personas, and also internal customers, because one of the reasons for that, it's clearly seen. It's seen when you generated some copy with AI. More than this, there is plenty of software that now can distinguish was this piece of content generated with AI or not. And my suggestion to use it to enable you, but not speak for you. Otherwise, imagine it would be just communication of two AI agents. I'm sending email to someone or publishing the copy, and someone else on that end just taking this piece of information, put in his AI agent, and says generate the answer. That's what the conversation will look like. I would probably don't want to do this, and I'm pretty sure that soon we're going to see changes in campaign management and searches where the AI-generated content will be omitted, will be not prioritized. So yeah, my answer for a final copy for communication, this is not the best choice.
So good. I love these different takes on AI and product marketing, and I am personally super excited to see where it goes in terms of Google ranking versus AI search ranking. I feel like that's going to be the next play for us and getting our tools actually into AI search ranking. Right. Any questions from the audience to our panelists? Morgane, I saw you first.
I wanted to ask a question on career development and personal development and how you use AI for that, to learn new things or to redo your CV or whatever, generally, both career and personal development.
Okay, how do you use AI for personal or career development? Sara?
I mean, we've spoken about this privately already.
Tell us, dish the private conversation.
No, we went out for dinner Monday night. But I like using AI to actually write a lot of copy back to recruiters, because often I don't want to be rude, but I know I don't want the job. So I'll write a nice message and I'll just get it to write it. So I actually do use it for some of my copywriting. I do rewrite it on the back of that, but I've generally already fed it what I want and what I don't want. The other piece really is sometimes you can pull some of the JDs of LinkedIn and actually ask ChatGPT to find out for you what skills you have and what skills you're missing. And I actually, if there is something that you don't have yet, but you think you could potentially want in 6 months or a year, actually find out what skills you're missing and start working on them.
I love that. So do a skill audit with AI.
I'll give you one of my favorite tips that I found out with the ChatGPT or any other AI agent. So when you're learning something, at least when I'm learning something, like I don't know, introduce me, for example, for the latest trends in like positioning, messaging, or research at some specific field, I will always add the words with the Socratic approach. What does it mean? So AI under the hood will start teaching you and introduce you to this new topic, asking you questions. What you already know, what you don't, will estimate your level of knowledge. And with this way, it will not just drop you the general summary, the general information about this. It will start asking you the question, and it will start build the study process based on your existing knowledge. So yeah, just add the Socratic method of learning, and believe me, it will improve your research and all the study you're doing with AI.
Very cool. I love that tip. All right, next question. Monica, over there.
Thanks, Hattie. I loved the whole panel. I loved you talking about how you use AI in your daily work. But the point you made at the end, Hattie, was like, have any of you been thinking about how your products are getting spat out to other people through AI? So beyond SEO, like how you're optimizing these answer engines to get your product spat out, because that is kind of the reverse thinking. So any tips or insight would be great.
Yeah, any tips from the panel on how you're using AI to spit out your organization as the answer to someone's problem that they're putting into AI?
I have been thinking about it. I can tell you I haven't yet implemented it, but one of the things I started doing a while back is asking ChatGPT who are perceived competitors, for example. How do we position against that according to you? If I would say, if I use our general functionality, right? How would you describe our functionality, and are we better or worse than X competitor, etc.? And how, if you look at our X webpage, which is there, what would you change, or what trick am I missing?
But when it comes to actually getting AI to mention the company that you work for, has anyone worked on this yet? No.
I've thought about it.
Yeah, fair.
I also haven't been working on that, but what I see is that the ChatGPT would use it. it also kind of have its bias, and it will use the most popular answers. And if your organization not in like the first couple pages in SEO rank, it's very unlikely ChatGPT will use it, unless, what I also found, if you're using the same messaging as you're using on your, let's say, website. For example, in one of my recent products I'm using, the first open source database platform management, this kind of a unique message that nobody else uses. And if I will ask him, like, can you give me like the first or the open source, blah, 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 it will give me my page, meaning that trying to address, it's the same Google, what the potential leads gonna Google for, gonna search for. I think that's the key.
Yeah, and a few things that I heard on the podcast was if you have blog posts that use listicles, then apparently whatever you mentioned as part of those listicles, basically it was explaining that AI right now, it really likes order and organization. So for example, if your organization has a specific framework and you make that framework as part of a blog post or on your website, then it will refer to it and then mention your company. But I feel like there is a lot more interesting developments that we can find out on that one. Any other questions? Laura?
I think the use cases you've mentioned in terms of how you're using AI are just phenomenal. Are they for sale? Literally, you were talking about Cassidy, you're talking about competitive intel, and just really curious, do you have maybe some sort of prompt framework or something that you're willing or able to share with those that would want to sort of learn at your feet and these kinds of things?
It's interesting about it. Not from me yet, but I would love to share.
Yeah. Do you have a prompt framework, Billy?
For Cassidy in particular, the biggest source of enablement for me was they have like a really, really comprehensive help center. And so like, I guess their two biggest products are assistants, which if you're using Gemini, very similar to a gem or something like that, right? Like a preset series of instructions, a knowledge base that you can train it on, and that way when you send prompts through, it's already able to execute stuff quite quickly. And then workflows, that's kind of what the PG Copilot project that I mentioned, where it's kind of triggering multi-step things. So it's not just like a sort of the chatbot functionality, but it's actually kind of like orchestrating a whole thing. Cassidy has its own kind of help center that kind of has all those things. I guess the other part of how I managed to kind of use those tools were the very, very AI-enabled colleagues that I have at Multiverse. People that sit in product team, people that sit in like the IT team, and who have been able to have these conversations with to help me kind of like unlock the extra kind of 5% along the way. I can't monetize them, unfortunately, either. But I think a great place to start with a lot of these tools as well is those help centers, and I definitely got myself like 80% of the way they're using that.
And don't hesitate to ask him to generate the prompt for you. For example, if you know your goal, like for example, increase sale, and you for that need to position some product or identify the pain points or something, just important thing to include the final goal, not just identify someone pain points, but in order to generate money in the end, and ask him to generate the prompt for you. It also will work.
I was just going to ask you a question, really. I think you might not know how well you know your product. So you're saying, use the user guides, but the truth is what she's actually really asking. You've done the work already. Can you share your biggest, maybe even use those user guides? Those are the ones that really going to get you there, especially if you're talking to solo PMMs or people who are super busy. I can tell you for myself, unfortunately, unless I'm going to do it in my private time, I don't have 5 hours to go through user guides. I'd love to, and that might be also some of the previous question, why are people so hesitant to start using AI, is because they just don't know where to start.
What I'm hearing is I should start selling my services
Essentially.
on LinkedIn, right?
Well, that was the question, really.
Yeah. I think I'm very, very happy to have a conversation about that for sure, and let's definitely connect. I just haven't done it before. In terms of the tech stack that we have, Multiverse, I think I mentioned Cassidy, I've mentioned Guru and Sana and Gemini. I think I probably get most of my work done with those tools. I haven't got them all necessarily singing together yet in like one big glorious orchestration, but I think for me it's kind of the small wins, right? And so especially if you're working in an organization where there's still a lot of room for growth with AI, right? There might be kind of like still kind of early days or just kind of getting kind of its act together. I still feel like there's so much low-hanging fruit, even in an organization where I feel like Multiverse is pretty far along already on its AI journey, like at least with the amount of kind of access and use cases amongst like everybody in the company that's able to use AI. There's still a lot of low-hanging fruit out there. Like just when you kind of look at all of the manual process that you have to sift through in your job and you really unpack it, there's so much to be done. So yeah, I'm very happy to connect with you afterwards as well.
I'll market you. I'm very happy to market you if you want.
Yeah, the frameworks will be sent through productmarketers.com. You'll find it on the website in like 2 weeks' time for like $49. It'll be fine. I'm joking. I know my answer isn't to you, Laura, specifically, because you have a growth mindset. But for the other people who maybe even online, I find when people over-rely on frameworks or pre-written prompts, it doesn't get you to actually get to the crux of the matter, which is to get you thinking about how to communicate to AI. It's about building the muscle of how do you generate prompts, or how do you use AI, or how do you think outside of the box creatively to use these different tools to get you and your organization to the end result. So it's not specific to you, but it's like an over-reliance on some grifter in America, no offense, Americans, is you know, the over-reliance on like pre-written, you know, garbage or PDFs and stuff, they might not actually help in the long run of getting us to think. I'm always, because obviously I'm a coach, I'm always thinking, how can I enable my clients to learn how to fish as opposed to me giving them the fish? That's why I'm really against even templates, because I'm like, that literally removed the thinking factor from you, and I've literally robbed you for $49. Like, how does that make sense? So learn the skill fast of like, how do I communicate with this? How can I actually improve on it? And then over time, you will see this compounding effect of how you use tools in general. But that was one thing that I would add. Let's open up to a final question before I let you all go. Oh, okay. I see two. Let's get to both. All right, Elliot.
All right, I'll try and make it quick. Paint a scenario, non-specific. Imagine you're a solo PMM with zero budget. What AI do you pick, and how do you move the needle, or like what metric would you pick to move with zero budget?
I mean, how you move the needle, meaning how do you get budget? Or like...
As in, what needle would you tackle, what metric would you tackle, and how?
I mean, I think answering what Hattie was just saying really is, in essence, think about the stuff that is super manual, that you redo again and again and again, is not super innovative, and just costs you a lot of time. Those are the things that I've picked up the first, that I'm using. I keep mentioning my release notes because they're bloody annoying, but they're super important, as well as one of the other things, like ensuring that my bias doesn't go with the transcripts of my interviews, or I use it actually every meeting that I have internally, I record nowadays, and I actually feed it into ChatGPT and ask it to get the takeaways out so that I don't really forget anything that I should have remembered. That just helps me in the day-to-day. So that, I guess. But it really also, and that's the other thing I'm going to say, depends on what you need it for. So I would just take a look at your week. Take a look at the stuff you enjoy least and the stuff that costs you most time, and hopefully they are the same. And those are the things that I would see what AI works for that. So for me, ChatGPT does the trick. But if it's a lot of writing, there are AIs that write much better than ChatGPT. So it really depends what you need it for.
Yeah, and the thing that I would add is, if there isn't budget right now, sometimes it really is a case of building the business use case for your organization. Maybe the budget isn't there because either someone in the executive level just doesn't understand what the actual output can come out of it. And even if you speak hypothetically and you say, hey, I showed up to this productmarketers.com event, I learned from 3 other PMMs who are using these tools, and I think there is a business case here. Can we use these specific tools for 3 months and just see, can we back it with budget? And then I will be able to give you the results as as a part of that. And sometimes the C-suite is actually very likely to allow you that to happen, especially if you can back it up with either, oh, I see the competitor doing this, or I see that if we use XYZ specific tool to get us to the outcome. What I've learned also is if you link the outcome of the executive or the people who matter up, above us, to then link that to the outcome that a tool can then generate for you, right? So it's like working backwards from, well, what does that executive actually want? And therefore, what can I actually implement that will get us there, either on the time thing, on the speed factor, but as Billy said, as Kate said, as Sara said, on the effectiveness factor, right? On the outputs factor.
Yeah, maybe keep a spreadsheet of the tools that excite you and like what they're for. But then I think most critically, before you pick any of them, like where is your pain? What is the most critical pain you're looking at right now? And then starting to narrow down, like, can I get myself some free trials of some of these things? Some of them might have like freemium models where you can. So whether it's your LLMs like your ChatGPT or your Gemini, I think Zapier has a freemium model. Like where can you start kind of making inroads? And then very much as Hattie was saying, like when can you start building out your use case as well? I think those are the key things. The kind of like the cross section between tools that are going to solve your pain, but then tools that are like, they seem like they're kind of like sandboxy enough that you could probably play around with them and do a bunch of other really cool things. And there's like whole new mountains of use cases that you haven't thought of right now. That was my Cassidy moment, that for me, kind of using it in a very narrow way and then understanding, oh, it does a million other things that I won't have time to get around to, but this is a really cool place to start.
I would add to that, it depends on where you are in your strategy way and growth way. Are you already know how to market the product in the most efficient way, like this specific, either it's software, service, whatever. I would focus on the not on the budget, but usually the most simple and at the same time the more complicated part is just to understand, the simple use case, the high probability use case that I will, what is the uniqueness? That's the kind of the obvious part. We're all PMMs here, and this is our job to identify and market it in the right way. But it sounds very obvious, but I see it every day that it is the hardest part to just take away all the unnecessary stuff and try to understand what is those one sentence that will sell your product, that will generate the revenue. Because the strategy, in a nutshell, is just a one simple sentence. I will sell this here to these guys because this does better than those and those. And once you're already on this way, the budget is just a matter of like time. But before, if you're not still there, if you're like just trying to shape in your strategy, just the free version of ChatGPT is basically the ultimate thing that the PMM may need, I would say.
Yeah, and the final thing that I would add, such great points, Kate, because it triggered a thought, which was, it's all about how you communicate to the person who has the budget. And basically, if, for example, if they are a high information person, then they require, or a skeptical person, then it requires a lot more information in the business use case to put together in order to get them over the line. So then it becomes a case of, well, part of like managing up is how can I create a use case strong enough that not only builds me up to show, hey, this is someone in the organization who's willing to stand up and speak to this. Because, for example, your framing could be, oh, our competitor is outpacing us, and through these win-loss interviews or through these customer interviews, we've learned that they are speeding up this specific element. And I think, hypothetically, they could be using an AI tool there. Is there a way that then there's like an inkling of a use case to then use as a conversation starter? And in some ways, the people above us will actually respect us more because we're able to come up with an idea that is rooted in the outcome at the end of the day, whether it's revenue or reducing churn or whatever it may be. So it's always worth it. Josh, is your question a quick one or?
Should be.
All right. Let's pan over to Josh. What is your quick question?
First of all, brilliant job, everyone on the panel. Fantastic. A lot of learnings from that process. A couple of observations, and then I'll ask the question. One about salary. Never ever undersell yourselves. If you ever want to hear a story about me increasing my salary by 80% from moving from one job to another, happy to share it at a later date. Secondly, the question from this lady in front of us, from me, about AI. One is, with SEO, everyone's looking at rank in the past, to now with social media optimization. How can they get the most comments, feedback, likes, etc.? And now it's all about AI optimization. I'm happy to share some really great insight what we've done. And FAQs is what's really grabbing a lot of AI attention at the moment. Happy to share that with the team. The question for the team is, you guys done a great job in selling AI and the benefits, but can everyone or someone share what the biggest failures you've had with AI?
Yeah, so the first thing that I spoke about was the solution mapping tool where a sales rep drops in their Gong transcript and then it aligns it to our programs. I think I painted that as a very succinct and very smooth process. It very much was not that. It took a couple of months working with that initial kind of tester team to get things correct. There were lots of questions around like what is the right series of prompts to give? How do we make sure that it's not hallucinating? What's the QA process, right? Like if our sales reps don't necessarily know what is being missold with the technical programs, for example, I need to get the product team involved. We need to have like a regular QA cadence. So I think, yeah, that's probably the best example. But we worked those things out, right? We kept things kind of internal and moved quickly, and I knew that there were going to be things that came up. We had, I think one of the earliest kind of drafts, we weren't quoting directly from like the customer and timestamping. So actually, while we got the quote, we got like the pain point from a customer. The sales reps are saying, but I have to still go back to the call and like use Gong AI to figure out where that thing was actually being said. It's like, great, okay, let me go back, figure out, can you please cite like timestamp? Didn't say please. Can you timestamp where this customer said this thing and then arrange the context? So then suddenly the output was now this little extra piece. And we did that a dozen times over until we kind of got to the final output. We did have, a sales rep say, well, can I also bring this all together into an email? Still very much human in the loop at the end when it comes to composing the email, but we got that first draft on the page as well. And, the final product from, I guess, February to April when we did the full GTM launch was completely transformative compared to what the MVP that I had, kind of building a quick version of it away by myself. So I think it's keeping your like end user, where if you're building an internal tool and you're not the end user yourself, keeping them close, making sure you've got a contingency for QA as well, and being able to jump on and making sure there's a really free feedback loop for, if you have seen it hallucinate, if it's recommending a product that you don't think is aligned, making sure you do a bit of digging there and understand why.
For me, it was a failure in the previous company with the content writing, when the CEO at that time said, "We don't need the content writers. It's so hard to maintain them, considering that that you have to enable him. He has to have the round of questions and interviews internal." Within the company in order to write an appealing article. And he decided just replace them with AI, saying that now, from that moment, everyone can just use AI and publish whatever he wants in our blog post. If he has something to say, just use AI, it will write you an article. And that was absolutely bad idea. The drop-in visits, not interesting content. And at that moment, I said, never ever I will use AI for the final copy. It's just, it doesn't make sense. I want to read like something. I just think it's not respectful. I don't want to read something that was not generated by a human. Just if it's, if it at that point we had the product releases that took us like just one simple sentences, and if it's just one simple sentence, that's okay. Just publish it. Don't add any extra things that trying to make it fancier or something. Just be simple as it is. Yeah, that was my failure.
Yeah, and before Sara answers, I was actually thinking the other day, Kate, when I was on LinkedIn, at some point the LinkedIn posts are going to be written by AI, and then the comments on LinkedIn posts are going to be written by AI bots. So it's literally written by nothing, read and commented by no one. And it's kind of weird. That made me a little bit spooky.
I think we're already there.
Oh, do you think we're there, Sara? Oh,
at least some of it. I mean, if you read some of the comments, it's quite clear that it's not very much a person. I think, truth is, the only thing I've ever is not being honest that it was AI that did something for me. I think if we are just more honest to each other, whether it's at work or what AI is helping us with we can show best practice, which actually I think is just kind and helpful. I remember my previous manager was like, "Hey, Sara, you wrote such a great email." And it took me a split second. I'm like, Ari, ChatGPT did that. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate it. I guess my prompt was great.
That's so good, because one of my clients in this room right now works at Amazon. They're a PMM at Amazon. And they told me, Hattie, because I'm coaching them through, I'm just coaching them. Anyway, so they told me, Hattie, you should really tell your other PMMs that when you're asked in an interview, have you used AI as part of your assignment, say yes. And then say that I used AI as part of this assignment because I am forward thinking. I want to use it. I think this is the direction that we're going in. So even if they try to use that question to trip you up or make you feel guilty for using it, actually you have to spin it and make sure that you use that answer to your advantage, which is I am a PMM who uses AI to do effective work. Now look at this effective work and hire me and pay me, girl. Let's give it up to this amazing panel. Billy, Kate, Sara, amazing. So many learnings. My goodness. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming to this productmarketers.com mini conference, London edition. Woo! Yay! And for those of you at home, the links will be in the description for your AI tool downloads from these amazing panelists. And if you would like to take the Profitable PMM Challenge, it is coming up. So check out productmarketers.com and I would love to see you there. If you would like to no longer be undervalued, underpaid, or not respected, come take the Profitable PMM Challenge. Thank you all so much from the best city in the world, London town. Let's go! Woo!